Boxing Ego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. 1. Golovkin promoter says despite the outcome of the second fight, Canelo versus Golovkin will not have an immediate rematch or trilogy. Stay tuned. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family we work. And also shout out to holylosangeles.com. They spoke with Golovkin promoter Tom Loeffler, K2 Promotions, and let's talk about what he said. In that interview, he says, "We agreed that whoever wins the May 5th rematch fight, we would decide if a third fight makes sense. There will not be an immediate fight after that. If there is a third fight, it will not be an immediate trilogy. If Golovkin wins, he will unify the title with Billy Joe Saunders." End quote. Want to talk about that. For me, I'm always a fan of immediate rematches when it's cloudy on who won, i.e. Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev. Some people were saying Floyd, Marcos Maidana, Castillo, Mayweather, just different fights like that. Mickey Ward, Gotti, just different fights. I like to see the clarification in a rematch. Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, I believe happened the same year, the rematch. So I'm all good with that. I also like the news of not having an immediate trilogy, meaning just because two people give us a good fight, anticipated fight, I don't need to see it milked in terms of like that's the only people they're linked to. You know what I mean? So I really hope, my hope is that whoever wins, Canelo or Golovkin, that it's just clear and definitive, and it's just really a rubber match or tiebreaker type of incidents where there's no doubt who won. Like someone pulls away, whoever that somebody is. You know what I mean? So we can give them props. And like I said, I just don't want to see them tied. The middleweight division is starting to jump. You know what I mean? It's jumping now. So I don't want to see the two guys, even though I just told you I like immediate rematches, I'm not trying to see them continuously be tied up fighting each other when there's other good fights out there. So hopefully we get a good conclusion, a clear conclusion, and then we can keep it pushing. And this is how I've always thought. I mean, even with like Manny Pacquiao, I thought he won the first fight. He didn't look great in it, but I thought he did enough to win. Kind of fought in spots. Tim Bradley, he did solid, but he got injured and all that. Then they had the second fight, and then Bradley started off well the first 5-6 rounds, and then he kind of gassed out or whatever happened, and then Pacquiao took over, made adjustments. So for me, when Top Rank made Pacquiao Bradley 3, there was just too many great welterweight fights for Pacquiao at the time. This is before the Jeff Horn loss and stuff. So I really didn't need to see that. I really didn't need to see Pacquiao Bradley 3. I really felt it was kind of a waste of time. If you think about it, Pacquiao could have fought Keith Thurman. He could have fought Errol Spence Jr. He could have fought Amir Khan. You know what I mean? Just a different face, a whole slew of new, fresh competition. So that's kind of what I want here with Canelo Triple G. So I'm hoping and praying that we get a decisive victor. Now, this is the one thing I will say about what Golovkin's promoter Loeffler is saying is Golovkin for years he was in the playground by himself, meaning there's nobody that wanted to play with him. He was looking very dangerous, 23 knockouts in a row. He was the mythical dragon, if you will, and it didn't look like he could lure Sergio Martinez, Maravilla, Cotto, Canelo at a point in time. He couldn't get those guys in the ring. It didn't seem like people were just chomping at the bit to face him, right? And now all of a sudden things changed. Golovkin showed some vulnerability his last 2 fights, really his last 3 fights, even the Kell Brook fight, but I'm not really going to include that just because Kell Brook got stopped in the end. So, you know what I mean, that end result. But Danny Jacobs pushed him the distance. Canelo pushed him the distance. And there was only 1 knockdown between the 2 of those fights. So he showed some vulnerability. You know what I mean? People thought Jacobs won. Some people thought Golovkin won. I thought Jacobs beat him, along with a lot of celebrity boxers. You know what I mean? Canelo, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., and some more people. But that's neither here nor there. But my thing is, now that the playground's starting to fill out, and you know how they say pick on someone your own size, there's some guys to pick on that are your own size, that are doing very well for themselves. Now, I understand that Billy Joe Saunders has the missing link to undisputed. He has that last belt. So hypothetically, if Golovkin gets past Canelo, then I can understand the desire to be undisputed. But this is the problem I have, and I'm going to try to express this and explain this in the best possible way. Golovkin's team has been inconsistent to me over the years, and I'm going to explain why. At first, they said, we will fight anyone from 154 to like 168. And then Andre Ward's like, okay, I'll fight Lil G at 168 before he moved up to light heavyweight. Oh no, he's too much for me now. You know what I'm saying? And then the fight never materialized, and Andre Ward's like, all right, F you. And then he moved up, fought Sullivan Barrera, an Abel Sanchez fighter at the time. And then he fought a couple, Alexander Brand, then he fought Kovalev twice, right? So that was proven to be false. You will fight Carl Froch, you'll fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. at 68, but you weren't trying to fight Ward there. You know what I mean? So that's one. It's like kind of like a strike one. Then, from what I've seen from Team Golovkin, like Abel Sanchez particularly, he was saying that it was sounding like Golovkin was just so noble as a fighter. And this, I'm not dissing Golovkin, like, and saying he's not a fighter with heart. I mean, he shows heart, he shows a chin, the desire to and the will to win. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about like legacy and stuff. It sounded like, from what Abel was saying, when people were afraid to fight Golovkin at the time at middleweight, and then the competition, you know what I mean, the guys, there was a clear separation in what Golovkin did versus the other guys available. So you were seeing Triple G blow through those guys. But at the time, Abel Sanchez was making it sound like Triple G, he was so motivated by pure legacy. You know what I mean? Making sure that his name is remembered. They were chasing Bernard Hopkins' middleweight run and title defenses, and that was their priority, to leave that everlasting impression on boxing in the middleweight division. We want all the belts. You know what I'm saying? All the belts type thing. Then strike two. That was determined to not be the case, because Canelo gifted you the belt in September of 2016. He says, I'm going through a lawsuit, I don't got time for this. Here, take this WBC belt. So he got the monkey off his back. Golovkin, without a fight, inherited that belt. Follow me? And Golovkin, I think maybe at the time, had already beat David Lemieux. So, you know, he's well on his way to being undisputed. See, and then after they chose, Team Golovkin being they chose the money fight with Canelo the next year, which was September of last year. Now, I personally don't have a problem. You got a livelihood, you know what I mean? You got to pay bills and mortgages and car notes and stuff like that. You have to establish those things. So I don't have a problem taking a big fight that's a good name that'll help boost your resume. The only problem I have is that is not congruent with what Team Golovkin made it seem like. They made it seem like they were chasing legacy. But if you're willing to not fight Billy Joe Saunders, because you have to keep in mind, at this time, Billy Joe Saunders was in negotiation after the Jacobs fight. They were in negotiations. Frank Warren, Tom Loeffler, they were in negotiations to make Triple G versus Saunders. Fact. Go watch old videos and stuff, old interviews around that time. After Jacobs fight in March 2017, they were in negotiations. And all of a sudden, by this time, over the year, Billy Joe Saunders had been acting super confident, and he was like, hey, I want a couple things me way, I got me pinned, and I want to fight him. And I think he got so embarrassed when it looked like he was ducking Golovkin, so he was like trying to reverse that. So he's like, I got my pin, I'm gonna whoop your ass, Borat and Triple G string, he was calling him all kinds of names, and all of a sudden he switched up, you know what I mean, did a 180, and Billy Joe Saunders was the one that was acting like he was pushing for the fight even more. You know what I mean? It's easier. And I do believe Billy Joe Saunders probably seen the Jacobs fight, and he's seen like, okay, Jacobs has been stopped before, and he held his own and went 12 rounds with Golovkin. He's not invincible. He's not Superman. So I think that fight gave Saunders some confidence, my personal opinion. So anyway, Team Golovkin chose the money fight, which again, I have no problem with people making money. I'll never hate. I'm from the Bay Area, home of the pimps, players, and hustlers. So I know about hustling, and I commend people who hustle and do what's right for themselves and their family. So I'll never hate on someone making money like that. You know what I mean? So it's not that he took the Canelo fight, the money fight. It's that it went against what he said he wanted to do. You got Billy Joe Saunders, who's now all of a sudden barking up the tree with the missing link in the last belt to your undisputed hopes that you said you wanted, right? And you choose the money fight. You know what I mean? So now with this interview, the problem I have is Tom Loeffler is saying, hypothetically, if Golovkin beats Canelo in the rematch, keeps his belt, now they're going to go after undisputed. But the thing is, for me, there's other fights in the division that I think are probably better, minus the fact that they won't be for a title. You got Jermall Charlo, who, if he looks good versus Hugo Centeno Jr., he's the WBC mandatory, which is never, and I don't want to hear anything about Charlo doesn't deserve it and stuff, because using that logic, how did Willie Monroe do more than Charlo? How is he more known? How is he more of a threat? How is that a perceived better fight? So my whole point being is, like, there's money, I think, in the Daniel Jacobs rematch, the Charlo fight, him being a mandatory if he gets past Hugo Centeno Jr. and wins dramatically. These are all very good fights. So how do you now pick and choose to now you want to go back to undisputed? And I'm not saying Billy Joe Saunders is easy, but Daniel Jacobs has proven to be a tough fight. Stylistically, if Jermall Charlo in his second middleweight fight looks good and becomes another middleweight monster, and guys like Demetrius Boo Boo Andre, those are very compelling fights as well. So now how do you choose to just go back to, oh yeah, we're pursuing undisputed? You know what I mean? After you got two money fights and there's other fights out there. So it's just, and it's not even like, I guess my theory is this, is they're telling you before the conclusion of the Canelo fight that their goal is Billy Joe Saunders. So it's funny that now you're going back to Billy Joe Saunders. So this is before Jermall Charlo's next fight. You know what I mean? Daniel Jacobs slated to come back in April or May. So you're basically saying, despite how they look in their next fights, you already have your mind made up that you're trying to unify the title with Billy Joe Saunders. So it's just, it's funny how it was about legacy, then they took the money fight, and then now after a second money fight, now you're back to the legacy and the belts matter. You know what I'm saying? It just, to me, that doesn't sound very consistent, because you could have had this belt. You could have already had the belt, because I would favor Golovkin to beat Billy Joe Saunders. After the David Lemieux performance, maybe it's more competitive than I thought. I don't know. But either way, I would favor Triple G to beat Billy Joe Saunders. You know what I mean? So you could have already acquired this belt, but you chose the money fight with Canelo, and then you didn't convincingly beat him in the eyes of some. So now you have to have a rematch, or now you're having another money fight and another rematch. And then after, now you're going to try to pursue Billy Joe Saunders. But you could have already had this belt and already kept it pushing, but you stayed hung up on Canelo. And I really feel like Golovkin, this whole Golovkin, Canelo, this is just my opinion, I'm freestyling this. Golovkin and Abel and Tom Loeffler, they allowed Canelo to kind of dictate the last couple of years of Golovkin's career, to be honest. And I'll explain. Before this whole Canelo talk and beef or whatever with Golovkin got serious, Golovkin was on his own track, racking up bodies, and he was fighting frequently. I think he was fighting like maybe 3-4 times a year. And then all of a sudden, when Canelo's name started coming up and it looked like the Canelo Golden Boy was trying to work on the fight and stuff like that, they stayed patient and then kind of let Canelo and Golden Boy be in the driver's seat. And people, even though they could have fought for undisputed, like I said, after the Jacobs victory for Triple G, they could have fought Billy Joe Saunders, who him and Frank Warren were pushing for the fight. We're gonna wait and find out what Canelo wants to do. And that's what they did. And then it lucked out, or they got the fight with Canelo. And Then after the Canelo fight, Canelo said, I'm not fighting no more this year, right? That was in September. Once again, Triple G could have fought from September, you know what I mean, take a little time off, all the way to May. But he's allowed Canelo to hold him up and not take any fights because they don't want to mess up that money fight. You know what I mean? Look vulnerable and or lose the belt, because then now the Canelo rematch, some people, you know, is going to take down the luster of that rematch. So I just really feel like Triple G's team let Canelo and Golden Boy kind of punk him and stall him out. Golovkin has got a year older each time, and they're not fighting as frequently based on the fact of waiting for Canelo. And I never advise that. It reminds me of kind of like Amir Khan. Amir Khan was wanting to fight Floyd Mayweather, and Floyd was doing all these polls with Maidana and Khan, and he was like, I won this poll on Floyd's official site. And then Floyd gave the fight to Maidana, didn't convincingly beat him to some, so they did the rematch. And meanwhile, Khan, his whole career, thinking he's gonna get the fight, he was waiting for Mayweather. You know what I mean? It's like wasting time and dead time, dead space. Then he went to fight Pacquiao, same deal. So I never advise fighters to let another man dictate your career path. If you want to be an active fighter and you've been fighting 3 times a year, then you do that. You know what I mean? Don't let Canelo do it. But back to this whole legacy thing with Golovkin, it just seems like they pick and choose, because like I think, to me, I would say Charlo or Jacobs fights are probably more dangerous for Golovkin than Billy Joe Saunders. You know what I mean? Saunders has good power and whatnot, but I think those particular fights, based on the build, the power, the style, you know what I mean? Charlo got a really good jab. Jacobs, he's already proven to have given Golovkin a tough fight, so that goes without saying. So I think there's good money and interest in those fights as well. And it's convenient to me that now Team Triple G wants to go back to undisputed. Now they're gonna push back, like, you know what I mean, and fans are gonna accept it. Oh, he just wants to be undisputed. He won all the belts. I mean, if he won all the belts, he could have been had Billy Joe Saunders' belt, or at least attempted at Billy Joe Saunders' belt by this time. But they chose not to. They chose to wait, and they chose to have money fights and stuff like that. And like I said, now that the park is filling out and the playground is filling out with different competitive challenges, it seems like Team Triple G now wants to take the challenges that they feel more secure. I mean, even Canelo. I'm not saying Canelo's easy work. Canelo may beat Golovkin. I'm actually picking him to beat him, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Because the first fight was tooth and nail. So that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Triple G versus Saunders. Not a bad fight, but I just think they're teetering on legacy versus money fights, and you know what I mean, just kind of balancing and bouncing back and forth. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you smash the like button as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.